Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of my ride recreation series. Today's going to be kind of a quick and goofy one. We're going to be looking at Good Gravy, the new for 2024 Vekoma Family Boomerang at Holiday World in Indiana. This one was suggested by my buddy Enrico, and I'm not 100% sure if he was joking or not when he suggested it, but too bad for him because I'm going to do it anyway. I haven't been to Holiday World at all before, but there are some good renders of the coaster up on RCDB. And I'll be looking at those today to see if I can put together a fun little recreation of this ride. Not much to it, as you can see from the screenshots. Pretty simple layout, just an out and back shuttle with not really a whole lot of crazy elements to it. Should be pretty simple, should be pretty straightforward. Plus the trains look like gravy boats, so that's pretty awesome. How can you not love that? Anyway, let's get to it. All right, I think for the base coaster, we're going to use the looping coaster since it is a Vekoma and the looping coaster represents the Vekoma track pretty well. So like I said, this is a pretty basic shuttle model. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of issues in getting it recreated. So let's build ourselves a little station. For the trains, I think I want to use the articulated roller coaster trains since the trains for Good Gravy have the one bench cars like the articulated trains do. I suppose you could also probably go with the hybrid trains if you really wanted to. I don't know if they look any different. Probably a bit too much. Neither of them look like gravy boats, which is really the important thing, unfortunately. All right, this will perfectly give us 10 cars per train. So let's put it into reverse inclined launch shuttle mode, and we can do some simulation as we build here. The whole coaster is pretty low to the ground aside from the two spikes, so I feel like it goes up a little bit just to get some advantage of that speed it gets from the first lift, but other than that it doesn't really get very far off the ground. So we only have a couple elements here. So our first right turn into the little can fly through, and that will take us into another turnaround here, which puts us partially diagonally into a little hop. Guess I better make my map a little bit bigger. And then finally we have a turnaround here into our spike. I think I just want to do it with the large incline because that looks pretty good. And the spike is pretty much vertical, which is kind of crazy. It has kind of a little dip at the end there. That might be a bit too extreme. So that's going pretty slow for the simulation. The actual lift hill is pretty shallow. So if I want to give it more speed, I might have to play around with making this either longer or taller. So let me give myself a little bit more room here. If we get a couple more tiles for the lift hill, because my vertical spike here goes all the way up to 100. The POV I watched, it only hit like halfway up the spike, so maybe at the 75 mark. So that means our lift hill doesn't need to go any higher than, we'll say 80. We'll give that a try. And while that's simulating, I gotta figure out where the entrance and exit are supposed to be. Like I said, I've never actually ridden this ride. I don't know much about it. I've only seen the renders of the queue that are on RCDB, the promotional materials. And the station is all enclosed in a big building, so it's pretty hard to tell exactly where everything is. Based on the photos that I can see, it looks like the exit is on the right side of the station. So we'll tentatively put those there. And now we can actually give this thing a full test run and see what it looks like. All right, there we go. It comes up pretty nicely about halfway up that spike like I expected it to. It's still pretty slow with the layout, but it is a family coaster, kind of expected. Not bad. This straight bit here maybe is a little bit too long. I might want to take that down a tile. There we go. All right, let's let this run for a cycle and make sure that it still looks all good. Again, still quite slow, but it is a family boomerang. Now, one thing we would want to do to make it even more realistic is change the lift hill over here. You can see that the looping coaster track we've selected uses the chain lift by default, but this coaster actually uses a tire drive, and that's something that we can fix with the Ride Editor plugin. And we can use it to, if we paint the lift hill and then use the plugin to change it to, I think, Junior Coaster for alternate color scheme 1. There we go. Then we got our tire drives on there. The supports are different, which sucks, but maybe that's fine. I mean, you could fix that with some dummy supports. You could hide the supports to the lift hill and add some fake track underneath it if you really wanted to. I might do that actually, because it does look a bit awkward to have two different support types for really no reason. All right, good gravy. You gotta add the exclamation mark. It's very important. It's part of the name. Stats are 2, 2, and 1, which is kind of to be expected. Not that you care about stats, but there you go. So there's our layout. Now there's another reason that I picked this coaster to do, and that is because right now on the DKMP Discord server, there is a mini contest to create a Vekoma family boomerang. And it turns out I had the suggestion already on my list to do, and it turned out that it was a pretty good time to do it. So that's what I'm gonna do for this layout. I'm gonna turn it into a mini contest entry. So we need to get our map cleaned up here a little bit, and then we can start decorating. Now, one unfortunate thing about the mini contest rules is that we have a maximum map size of 800 tiles, and I think we're gonna be pretty well over that. Let's take a look at reducing our map here and see what we're at. So if I give myself one tile of gap all the way around, I'm at 48 by 20, and I'm pretty sure that's too big. So our maximum map size is 800 tiles, and this is 960, which is too big. Which is unfortunate, and it's kind of what we have to deal with. The layout for Good Gravy is a little bit sprawling. And 800 tiles sounds like a lot of tiles, but it's not really when you look at it like this. So I think the best course of action to actually get this to fit into the plot is to tweak the lift hill to give it a steep lift hill instead. It's not going to be accurate, but I want it to fit in the size that we have available. So we're going to try that. I'm pretty sure that's going to get us under the limit. I did a quick draft of this yesterday, so I'm pretty sure that given a steep lift hill, that might be able to push us under the limit. Let's give this a quick try. I don't think that's going to be enough. That front car barely goes off the ground. It's going so very slow. We'll give it one more tile of lift hill. Even if that were to work out correctly, I think the fact that it goes that slowly just is not appealing to me. So now we're at 20 by 42, and I think it's still over by a lot. The draft I did last night was not over by so much. I think I need to shift this bit over again if I want to get to fit. I really don't want to get rid of my one tile buffer around the edges here. If I make it one narrower, if I remove this straight piece here, it'll do it, but I'm not going to be as happy about it, unfortunately. I do want to give these nice big wide corners, because I feel like that looks better. Somehow it turned out to be 10 feet shorter. I'm not entirely sure how that happened, but that's fine. So we'll try that, and then quite a few extra tiles of buffer. Okay, so now we're at 19 by 40, which is definitely under our limit. We could go 20 by 40 would be 800. I can do math, I swear. 19 by 41 is still under the limit, so we'll do that. And I can put in one extra straight piece here. Okay, I think this is gonna probably be our final layout. That's what I was after the whole time. If I make this a junior coaster, are we still gonna get the drive tires? Yes, excellent. I wasn't sure if the junior coaster had sprites for the steep lift with drive tires, but it does, which is great. All right, so here's our modified Good Gravy that does fit within our 800 tile limit. Like I said, the only difference is the lift hill is now steep instead of shallow. If I had the space for it, I definitely would give it the shallow lift hill because I think it would match the real thing better, but this will do for now. This looks just fine, I think. So now we got the layout down, it's time to do some decoration. So let's get to working on that. Like I said, I've never been there. I haven't seen a ton of photos. This thing is pretty new, it just opened a couple months ago, but there are some pretty good marketing renders that Holiday World has put out and that are on RSTDB, and I'll use those for references. Honestly, sometimes renders are better than photos for references anyway, because they're a bit simpler, a bit cleaner, a bit easier to work from when you're trying to translate something into an RCT context, which is sometimes nice. Although it might differentiate from what was actually built after the fact, but that's just something you're gonna have to deal with, I suppose. And to start our scenery, I think I'm gonna look at the station, usually the most important part of a roller coaster build. The station for Good Gravy, from what I've seen from the photos and the renders, is actually really cool. It's set up to look kind of like a mid-century family home, which, you know, very thematic, I suppose, for the Thanksgiving theme. A lot of stuff going on inside the station, which we won't be able to reproduce. I don't really know if we have enough room here to give the station all the detail that it deserves at this scale, but I'm going to give it my best shot. Basically, we're just going to be building a big home here around the station and see if we can get it to look like what we have in the renders, at least. There's a POV from which you can get some views of the station, but they're very brief, so I don't know if that'll be very helpful. Anyway, I'll go find my own references and we'll get to work on this station here, and I'll stop talking about it. All right, we're making pretty decent progress on our stations so far. The reason I'm stopping right here is because I noticed that the height of the coaster is a little bit awkward. So you might hear people talk about not putting your roller coasters flat on the ground if you're going for realism, because that's not how roller coaster stations are usually built. You want to keep them up off the ground. So that's what I've done here. However, it looks really awkward coming out of the little garage area like that. And looking at the photos in the videos, the POV, I can see it looks like it really is right on ground level is where you load and unload. And there's probably a maintenance bay underneath. And I think it would look a little bit better for my build if I changed the station so it was flat on the ground. Even though it's not what you would normally do, it's hidden enough in the station, I think it's going to look better that way. Only thing to keep in mind is that we need to make sure this bit still has no clearance here because the exit goes under this part of the track. But I think we'll be okay. Just add another dip down here and it should work out all right. So let's see if I can make this coaster shape a little bit better here. right, so quick change to the roller coaster layout. Things are looking pretty good. The pacing is still just as good as it was before. One thing I would change if I had more room is to put this back section of the coaster a bit closer to the ground, but I don't think I have enough space because I need another tile or two to make this drop here a little bit longer. Sadly, we are limited in the amount of room we have, so it's not going to happen. But if I were building this for a full park, I definitely would want to get those two things right. This dip here and get the chain lift correctly inclined, but that's okay. It's close enough. Anywho, let's get back to working on our station building here. Okay, I think this is the station for now. As always, I reserve the right to go back and tweak things later, but the shape of this, I think it's working out pretty well. You could actually see a pretty good chunk of the back of the station from the POV, which is really handy, so I could see what the back of it looks like. There's just some weird colors going on. It's pretty plain, but you're not gonna look back here much anyway. The shape is kind of weird. Definitely more granular detail than you can do with NCSO and recolorable NCSO in RCT. If I had some like quarter or half tile size scenery pieces to work with, I could use those to definitely make this house look a little bit more correctly shaped. Don't have those to work with right now. Especially not happy with like this front door area. It's definitely not correct, like compared to the real thing, but I might go back and tweak this a little bit later. It turns out we got a ton of room over here on this wing of the house for some queue. I'm thinking of maybe throwing in some little show scenes in here to kind of match what the real queue looks like. It's got some decorative furniture and everything in here. It's a pretty neat queue. I quite like it. Don't know how much of it we can actually replicate with RCT, but we've got the room for it right here if we want to do that later. So given that, not a whole lot left to do for this build as far as big stuff left. What I want to do is work on the plaza a little bit. You can see I've already started to sculpt out where the footpath and some of the fencing is going to be. Taking a look at the renders, what is even in here, it just looks like some play areas and some picnic tables, some shady spots, some flower beds, stuff like that. Nothing too major. There might be another building over here kind of in this region, like here. I'm not really sure what it is. It's in the render, but it's really hard to see. It might be restrooms. I might put a restroom building in there. Got a lot of peeps complaining about hunger, but I don't think there's any real place to have food. I guess in the render there's like what might be a food truck right over here. I guess I could do that. That might be nice. Anyway, so I'm just gonna do some general detailing in this area. Also, we need to do some support work for the coaster. This the spike is obviously missing a support, and then I want to fix up the supports over here for the lift hill, like I mentioned earlier. Just a lot of little things to work on. I think outside the coaster in this corner here, I don't think there's really anything there, at least in the render. It's just plain grass. So I'm probably gonna leave those pretty empty, maybe plop in some trees and vegetation, but nothing too crazy. So that's my plan for now. Let's just keep cracking away at building some stuff. Alright, I'm back for day 2 of my build here. For the most part, I think the map here, what we have, is getting pretty close to being done as far as the recreation goes. I do want to spend some more time kind of cleaning things up, doing some tweaks here and there, mostly around the station building. I think it mostly looks pretty good. I like the shape of it. You could use a little bit more detail maybe, and I still don't like this little front area here, so I might think of some other ways to clean this area up while still keeping it with a pretty cool shape. And maybe give the restroom building a little bit more detail. In the render, it looks pretty plain, so I built it looking pretty plain and matching the station, but I don't really like the way it looks, so I might play around with some other ideas for ways to spice up this building. Like I said earlier, I don't think we'll be doing much with the outsides of the park here, because this area is pretty barren. I've threw in a few trees, but I don't really want to add any more stuff. I like to keep my recreations pretty faithful. We could add in like a couple supporting rides or something, but I don't think there's a lot of room without making it look very cramped. One other thing I might want to do is the inside of the station. Since there's not much else to look at in this park, I think it might be fun to at least have something in here for people who want to use cutaway view, put in some little scenes in here. So I'll see how much time I have left for that at the end of today. So I think I'm just going to start with working on these buildings over here and see where that leads us. Okay, I think I'm about done building for today. This is about as much as I wanted to get done. I didn't think there would be a whole lot I wanted to do today. Just kind of clean things up, tweak some things. I am happy with the new shape of the restrooms and the front of the building here. The front of the station, it looks a little bit cleaner. And I did manage to keep it with a pretty interesting shape despite our space constraints. We also added some show scenes inside the station, as you probably noticed. There's a lot of cool little dioramas and things. As I mentioned before, the station is kind of themed to a family home. There's a lot of little rooms of various kinds. There's a big dining room, which I've tried to emulate here. There's the bathroom, a little living room kind of area. Really hard to do in RCT, obviously, given the scenery options available. But, you know, better than nothing to throw some of those in there. It looks kind of cute. You're not going to see much anyway because of the roof. Other than that, I think we're about wrapped up here. I might tweak this a little bit more later. As I mentioned, this is for a contest, so I'm probably going to give it another look in a few days, make sure I haven't missed anything obvious, anything else I wanted to clean up. But I think for now, this is where we're going to stop, at least for the video. As you're watching this, the deadline should have passed, so there will be a link in this video's description to give this a download, along with all the other entries, if I remember to add them. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.